Baldwin mortise cylinders, which this video is not about. But this just goes to show you that there are requirements for different lengths of cylinders. And as we see, Baldwin did a different cylinder for every application. However, some companies did adjustable mortise cylinders, and they can adjust from that to that. Okay, y'all, so I am going to go over adjustable cylinders. Adjustable cylinders have the capability of adjusting from short to long, and took the place of having to have multiple different styles of cylinders. It was a kind of a unique idea, probably came from either Yale, Corbin, or Russwin. I think Corbin or Russwin, one of the two, may have had the first adjustable cylinders. But back in the day, mortise locks would come with these mortise cylinders. You would typically see them on the front doors of old houses that were built between about the 30s to about the 60s, mid 60s. This is one example of one. And typically would have the handle set below it. The trim would often be a decorative shape matching with the lower part of the handle set. And as a locksmith, you would get calls to frequently to rekey or make a key, because most often the people would lose a key or never need a key and never had a key. If they bought the house, they may not have just had the front door key, or it got discontinued from use, typically because somebody drills and puts a deadbolt above it, because that adds more security to the doors. So it's very common to have the handle set fall into what's called the passage state, or what just makes the door snap shut when you close it, and nobody ever uses the key anymore. And typically as a locksmith, you'll get there and you'll unscrew the lock from the door and you get it off, and there's no screws to remove it. Now, I had filmed this video about a week and a half ago, and I had it moved over to my card because of memory on my phone, and I kind of was going to get around to it type of deal, and saw recently that Bronx-Lockpicker 60 BLP did a video. I'm going to link his video right here in this corner if y'all want to go check it out. He did a Russwin show and tell on this Russwin style cylinder right here, and he talked about the balls, he talked about his balls in his lock, and he also gutted it. And also, I will point out, in this little clip right here, I'm going to put a little thing right here, just a little clip out of his video. When at the end of it, when he was gutting it, there is a spring right there with a little pin inside the spring. So what that is that's a Prism Check Pin. And what the function of that was in the fifth chamber of the antique Russwin cylinders, you would have a Prism Check Pin that integrated with the spring to allow for... No, I'm just screwing with you. I have no idea what that was in there for. No idea. But I will mention that those did not look like original springs. So I'm guessing that is some type of attempt by somebody to do something. But no, I've never seen that thing in there. It looks like a master pin in there or something. Like a master padlock pin almost. Messing with you about the other stuff. So anyway, the common keyways with the Russwin was RU1, which is the 852 Keyway. Then it was kind of started around like 1910-ish, 1912 to like 1940 era. It was their common keyway with their cylinders. This is, we can tell this cylinder was born after that, because this is a Z-style key, and those did not start coming along until after the 50s. And that's apples to oranges back then, Corbin to Russwin, so I really should have compared it more to this. But the the 852 Keyway So one of the things you're going to run across, they originally had these nice, cool antique heads. We'll see some original heads for RU4 or 852 Keyway. And of course you have the aftermarket Elko version, 1011. And for a while during one of the wars, you know, the brass was scarce, so some manufacturers, this case being Curtis Industries, made some aluminum blanks that fit it, because during the time from say like the late 30s to the about 60s, you would have doors that had different trim thicknesses, and that is one reason why Baldwin has so many different cylinders, is because they have ridiculous trims like this that are already 3/4 of an inch thick. So if you grab an 1/8" cylinder, it is not going to go far enough into the center of a door. So they had to start coming up with these longer cylinders to make work with both these longer trims and for thicker doors. The Corbin and Russwin and others, McKinney being one, Taylor being another, and Yale being yet another, went from about 1/8" to as the shortest, and you could stretch it all the way up to about 1 3/4". And the Russwin RU1 Keyway. So one of the things about Russwin is, long ago they actually gauged in the factory, like this key, I'm sure, in their factory they clamped it here. There is this ledge right here on the key was actually what they based the root cut of the depths off of. And of course our key machines, when you go and you take an original key and you set it down on the bottom of the key machine and then come in with another one, it throws it off just a bit. Now they stopped doing that after a while, but you will still commonly find problems if somebody has an antique key and you try to, maybe it's worn and you try to sight decode it. Never going to work. Number one, because Russwin, this Keyway had kind of its own bitting specs. That was I think the 852 had 0 through 6, but there was also like a shadow 0 or something that was below a 0, and I think that is the difference in the machine nowadays versus how they were clamped from the factory. So with the Corbin Keyways, we can date those around the probably most commonly I would guess between 40 and 50 is when these adjustables were born, because of the Keyway styles. The Corbins all used the, what do I have down here? SK1. Did I say? I may have messed up in that. But SK1, we can see we have the decorative Corbin style keys here. Very beautiful keys that I wish they still made. And again, that's the 77 Keyway that, or I'm sorry, that is the 67 or 77? 77 Keyway. And that's about 1950. So they may have been made shortly before that, but like around the early 50s is when they changed over from one to another standard Keyway. So to take it apart, like I said, let's get back to that. Most likely you'll take it off of a door, and you will, if you don't know what it is, then you will see in fact, I want to get back to this. Don't let me forget, but this just assuming that we don't have a key for it when you get it off the door. Your first inclination is should always be to go for whatever you see, and that being this screw. And this tailpiece is blocking that screw. However, it's not blocking it fully. You can still unscrew it without a key, so you don't need to pick it or turn it in any way to get it to turn. However, if you are working on one that has not been serviced in a while, take some lubricant and spray here. Well, just soak the dang thing. Soak it on your screw, soak it here. And as you unscrew, it's going to get a little stiff. So typically I would come in and I would just tweak each edge, because it runs down the channel when you're unscrewing it. And as you unscrew, because the screw is only on one side, it throws the cylinder into kind of a cockeyed state. So as you unscrew, I can get my screwdriver to work, so I'll go one turn and then I'll come up here and I'll kind of push it out just a bit. And then I will do the same thing again, push it out just a bit more. You may have to do it on the other side as well. And if you proceed in that fashion, you will eventually come to the inside of it, as we see in this one. Now, most of them are going to have these cloverleaf cams, both Corbin and Russwin. However, there is the standard cam, and I did want to show off these patent dates. And we see these Russwin cylinders have patent of 61002, and that is not 2002, boys. That is 1902. 11/24/08, 7/11/11, 12/12/11. So that is patent dates for something. That does not mean these were made in 02. That just means they were patented then. They were all made from, I'm going to guess, mid-30s to the early 50s. So various stampings on some of them. And once you get down to it, basically, again, you can go back on BLP's video on it, but basically at this point, it is just unscrewing the lock like you would any other normal cylinder. And I'm going to look at one spring only, because I'm not going to take time to get the whole thing, because I'm going to go over several other things. But I'm thinking this lock has original... What am I doing? Why isn't that working now? I'm thinking this lock has the original springs and pins in it. What in the heck's going on? Did I move? Oh. RU1. Now I know. I'm losing my mind, people. This key is not working all of a sudden. What in the heck's going on there? Okay. Wow. Didn't I just take this key out of this lock? I guess we are not going to look at that. So we're going to move on. We are going to look at something else. That is crazy. Oh, what was it? This one? Ah, no. I was going to key it to that one, maybe. Whatever the case is, let's move on. McKinney was another company that made them. They used mostly these. Oh, one other thing on the Russwin. So all the Russwins are going to be the bigger plug follower, the 550 diameter. And all the Corbins that you find are going to be the standard plug follower, up until they standardized. The two, we've seen the cloverleaf style, which is the most common, and then the Yale style cam. Taylor made a couple, or a version, but they used a crappier metal brass plate. And we can also see these came along probably much later. These companies started putting these cylinders out. Taylor uses a T7 key. And we can see the difference in the real deal antiques and the aftermarket antiques. We can see that the real deal antiques had that kind of cut out cylinder style, whereas the ones that came along later that were primarily to replace something had this solid body style. And lastly, Yale also had a version. Yale's was, they may have had the screw back version. I'm almost 100% sure I've seen a Yale version with the screw. But they also had this, what looks like a collar on it, and no screw at all. So we're missing a plug here. But the way to do this, now these were very problematic compared to the screw ones, because you had to hold this and turn this, and that's kind of hard to do without damaging your threads, especially when it's corroded or hadn't been taken apart in a while. So definitely soak it with lubricant. But the way to take it off was to, once you unscrew it all the way, you will notice that both it gets longer, and eventually the plug goes off kind of kilter, and this stops unscrewing. So you can sit and unscrew forever, and it's not going to do anything because there is a set screw hiding under there. And when I say hiding, you probably have layers of dirt or grime, and God forbid if this screw is stripped out, that would not be good because it is incredibly difficult to deal with there. But as soon as your collar backs out just out of the way, you can unscrew this little set screw and take your front out. So that set screw is basically holding it in, keeping you from pulling it all the way out. Okay, so I'm not going to take the time to put that back together. I could have swore that, so that key went there. I wonder why that is a RU1. These are RU1s. I don't know why that will not go into the keyhole. So I don't think I've left anything out necessarily. Again, if you want to see the gutting of one and what's inside, be sure and check out BLP's video. I'm glancing over this just to make sure that there was something that I wanted to point out about doing these. One of those things is this. We see this cylinder jumped its track at some point and is now firmly locked up. I cannot get this pin, has dropped into the fourth chamber. Really the only way to get it out, I've tried shimming it and pushing this pin up. I just can't get a shim in there from the front or back. So worst case scenario here is I would pry up this cap and dump the pins and springs out. So not gonna mess around with that right now. But again, thanks for watching, guys. That is kind of just a quick discussion on adjustable cylinders. What you're commonly going to run up on is the Yale Y1 Keyway, RU1 Keyway, or 852 or 1011, and the 77 Keyway, which is the SK1. A lot of these may have a 6-chamber drilled in them. However, if you are using one, especially one that's like never been used or has only always had a 5-pin key, they came 5-pin keys. So never try to get creative, or if you're doing this for a customer, never, because that 6-pin hole is both going to be horribly gummed up with stuff in it, and the upper chamber hole may be messed up. It is very difficult to try to make a 6-pin work in that, especially after 70 years of not being used. So if you run up on one of these, you will need your SK1 keys. Remember, the cutting is really crazy. I'm not even going to get into that because that's like a 5-hour long video course on cutting and spacing and depths of your Corbin keys. But just to point out again, the Russwin keys, if you're using like a 1200, just go with like whatever the old Russwin card is. I didn't even look up that information before I started this video, but and then just key it up. You're not going to be able to go by a chart if you're using an 03. You're not going to be able to do that. You're just going to have to cut it, hope that you got your spacing right so that the pins hit the flat of the the bottom of the cut, because they were kind of weird with the cutting, especially of the 852 Keyway, and because of how the factory keys were clamped in the machines. So anyway, if you have any questions or if you have any comments, and hit me up, and appreciate you guys watching, and we will catch you next video. I have to go do a giveaway video, I think. All right, guys, see you next time. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out BLP's. I'll put it in the description, but Bronx-Lockpicker 60 did a video on these too, and I told him that I would give a shout out, and I did. Hey, thanks for watching. Peace.